Bombers lose, but they hold the season series. Good morning, afternoon, and evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another Bomber video. Bombers lose by a score of 25-20 to the Edmonton Elks at Edmonton, and I have very mixed thoughts on this game. So, firstly, important to note, because the Elks win by 5 here, whereas the last time Winnipeg played Edmonton, they only played twice this season. Last time Winnipeg beat Edmonton, they won by 13 points. That means the Bombers will have the season series even with the loss tonight, which is important. As Calgary won, Calgary clinched. Winnipeg and Edmonton in competition for that last spot. And the interesting thing here is because if we take a look at the standings here, I just kind of want to get into this before we really get into the weeds with things. Is that the Elks move to a 7-9 record, and the Bombers fall to an 8-8. The West has been the top 3 spots have been clinched. Again, those orders can shift around as I think Saskatchewan has the West final, but everything else is still in contention. So Winnipeg 8-8, the Elks 7-9. Now the key thing here is that in order for Edmonton to actually make the playoffs, not only would they need to win both games, the Bombers would need to lose both games. If Winnipeg wins even a single game out of the final 2, then it's game over for Edmonton. And if Edmonton loses either of their final 2 games, then it's game over for Edmonton. The real question is where the Bombers will lie. But we're going to go through the game first. As nothing much in the pregame here, but first quarter, Zach Collaros is sacked to start the game. Not exactly great. Jared Brinkman would be credited with the stack, 91 defensive lineman for the Edmonton Elks. He was a key piece of the Toronto Argonauts' really strong D-line last year. The Bombers are forced to punt. The Elks would then get it going. They go for a 43-yard field goal, but Vincent Blanchard misses it. There's an awesome return by Trey Vavel. Trey Vavel will get roughed up a little later in this game. He was okay. He was playing afterwards. Trey Vavel was great, though. Bombers would then push, and Sergio Castillo would hit a 28-yard field goal, making this 3-0 Bombers to start. Fajardo connects with Julian Grant. That was a connection that they really tried to ham through this game. And then Blanchard would put it through the uprights with a 35-yard field goal, making it a 3-3 tie game. Elks really pressuring Collaros a lot. However, because of that, at times there were some guys that they were leaving open. Collaros' decision-making, I don't like either of the picks he throws. To be honest, one of them he way underthrows it, and it's a pick for that reason. And the other one, he was just trying to force a play that wasn't there. I think there are some instances where Zach Collaros had a shorter option that would have gotten the first, it wasn't that beautiful 40-yard pass, but sometimes you don't always need that. And I think at times he just got a little bit too ambitious. But Brady Oliveira would have a good run, and that would pretty much be it for the first quarter. Bombers would continue to drive in the second quarter. They'd be first and goal on the 4-yard line. And Streveler goes in. I'm not crazy about this unless you're like 2 yards. I usually am a fan of just running it as is. Do what you did to get down the field. And then if it's truly short yardage, I guess because it's 1st and 4, but I just remember it being 1st and 5 in the Labor Day Classic, and the Bombers having to kick a field goal when they had a 1st and 5, 1st and goal on the 5-yard line. And so thankfully that doesn't happen here as Chris Streveler gets into the end zone for a touchdown. An Elks player gets hurt on the play. I didn't see who it is, and the only camera angle they showed, someone was standing right in front of where his numbers were, so... Conversion is good, 10-3 Winnipeg. Elks push it down the field, and Fajardo, with a nice fake, runs it in, and the conversion is good, making it 10-10 tie game. Elks really, really staying in it. The Elks have been doing very, very well, as much as the Elks are at the bottom of the West. Comparing this team in any way to the Ottawa Redblacks is, in my opinion, very disingenuous to what this Edmonton Elks team has been doing as of late. Then there's a bit of an interesting play here as Trey Vavel fumbles it, but there's a no yards penalty that is assessed. And is it Javarius Jackson? I'm trying to remember the name of the Elks head coach. I believe it is. He tries to challenge this. Now, thing is, again, you need conclusive evidence to overturn this. And the problem I see here is that Trey Vavel looks like there's the yard line, and then there's he looks like he's about 2 hashes up. So about 2 yards off of that line. And the other guy only looks about 1 yard off of the next one, which means that he would only be 4 yards away. And could it is it possible that maybe from another camera angle it looks closer to 5 yards and this is fine? Yes, but again, it has to be conclusive evidence, and so I think there's just not enough here for Edmonton to succeed with a challenge. Now, Edmonton, I totally understand why they challenge this, as it is a close call, and Elks would get the ball here. Um, but and so there's a lot of upside to make challenging a more down the middle play worth it, because if it goes your way, then that's a huge advantage that you're getting. But he doesn't get it, and their coach was pissed. He's like, I'm not someone who's usually a good lip reader, but I could tell that he was saying fucking bullshit about 3 or 4 times on the way to the sidelines. He was not pleased with that. However, even with the Bombers keeping possession, it's not like the Elks would be very long before the Elks got it, as this is the awful pass by Zach Collaros that is wildly short and is picked off. And at this point, they flash a graphic up on the field, up on the TV, and this isn't the first time it went up. 38 turnovers this year for Winnipeg. That is the worst in the CFL. Most turnovers in the CFL this season. Not a good look, and so there's no excuse for it, especially when Montreal was running a four-string quarterback for multiple games. He was their starter, James Morgan. So not a good look for the Bombers. Edmonton Elks would take a time count violation. They would get a 10-yard penalty for that. And then the Elks would take a single as Vincent Blanchard would miss another field goal, this time just a 33-yarder. Really unacceptable to miss that. And it is 11-10 Elks as it goes through the back of the end zone, and they are awarded a single. On that interception, it looked like Dembski had maybe pulled something or whatever. And we come back for the third quarter, and we learn that Dembski has been ruled out, and he will be out for the rest of the game. I'm hoping this is a short-term injury. Again, he didn't really take any contact. It just looked like he kind of pulled something funny in his leg. So I'm hoping this is more precautionary, but it's just too early to see. 3rd and 2, and the Elks are going for it. And Justin Rankin goes for a run, gets out, and they have been struggling to contain Justin Rankin, and he gets out. On 3rd and 2, he gets a touchdown. And this is near like center field. This is bad. The Bombers struggled to keep contain on Justin Rankin. Justin Rankin was a problem. Like literally, I wrote down like seriously, wake up. This is not good. Conversion is good. 18-10 for the Elks. On the kickoff return, Trey Vavel would just get completely steamrolled, and he was slow to get up, and it looked like he might be hurt, but again, he would come back later, so that was good at least. It would go back and forth a little bit, and then Bombers would punt. Elks would get it. They would fumble it. They would pick it back up, and they'd run it all the way to the end zone and touchdown. Elks 25-10. Just a comedy of errors. Just unacceptable. I had a lot of problems with the way we played tonight, where I just felt like there were so many times where Edmonton was making a big mistake that we didn't capitalize on. I think that was the number one thing that I noticed, was not just necessarily just us making mistakes, but watching Edmonton make mistakes and not doing anything. And that is that in and of itself, that is a mistake. So just not really pleased with that. Elks were really starting to hem us down, but the Bombers would get going, and Sergio Castillo in the third quarter near the end would get a 34-yard field goal, making this 25-13 for the Elks. We would go into the fourth quarter, and the Elks would take a holding penalty. There would be a good run by Brady Oliveira. And then there would be an unnecessary hit on the receiver. So this would be on Brady Oliveira. This would be a 15-yard penalty. And I understand many were upset about this. This was the right call, though, as Brady Oliveira is hit below the knees. So I don't know if any of you remember if the name Garrett Marino rings a bell. And when after that Garrett Marino hit, and he hits Jeremiah Mazzoli right under the knees, in a way that like it's not like he's not jumping up, he's not raising the height of his knees or anything like that. Just a low, dangerous hit. He was ruled out for the rest of the season, and it took him really 2 full years to get back to health. I'm not saying that's the hit here on Brady Oliveira, but what I'm saying is the CFL had implemented rule changes to try and prevent that. Again, if a receiver jumps, they're no longer granted that immunity because the height of your knees you're choosing to raise on your own accord. So Edmonton would be awarded a 15-yard penalty here, and Caleres would throw another pick, and this one was a bullet pass that it was just off. He just this was not a good one. I'm not gonna lie, I did not like this one bit. Elks drive would thankfully go nowhere. Elks would be forced to punt. They would take a no yards penalty, and the Bombers would push it down the field, and then Ontario Wilson would maybe make catch of the year, where he's in double coverage. Both guys are pushing. I have to see it again to see if it was potentially pass interference. I'm not sure, but he's got all kinds of pressure all over him. He tips it up, and it looks like it's falling, about to hit the ground, and he just barely gets his hand under it, pops it up, clamps down on it. Ridiculous catch in the end zone, touchdown. Ontario Wilson. Conversion is good, and and it would make this 25-20 for Edmonton. Now, after this, the Elks would take a penalty, and or actually the Bombers would take a penalty, and originally it looked like a face mask. And it goes to the command center, and it is overturned, and it is ruled that there's no flag on the play. I thought it was a face mask too at first. My brother was upset though because he said it was not, and he said he was grabbing him under, like right kind of under, like on the jersey kind of here, close to the face mask, not the face mask. On further review, I think I see what he's saying here, as I don't think he got the face mask. To be honest, I'd need to check that again. But I know that Elks fans were furious about this. I know Scout Online was I believe it was this play. I would have to check. Was not happy about this. This is one I would have to see again, as it was pretty down the middle. But they did. I will say the call on the field was that there was a penalty. I didn't hear them say face mask, but I'm assuming that's what they were going to call. But it is what it is. Elks would get a good return on kickoff. They would take a procedure penalty. It would go back and forth a little bit, and then it gets near the end of the game, and this puzzles me. So the Elks are up by 5 points. They know that the tiebreaker is 13 points, and so if you're the Edmonton Elks, you're thinking surely you want to get a touchdown here and go for two, as that would then tie you, and then I'm not sure what the tiebreaker is after that. But that would get you to 13-13. The Elks decide to punt it. Okay, Winnipeg picks it up, and they go for one last play where they let Brady run it with about 1,000 blockers, which I was fine with that play, because honestly, if you're the Bombers, you're not really necessarily at that point trying when there's like 9 seconds left. You don't need the win here. You just need to make sure that you keep the Elks with at that 5 points and prevent them from getting back to that 13 points. And this is why you run the ball. This is why you don't throw it. As much as obviously Winnipeg wanted the win here, it was more important to keep the tiebreaker, as it puts Edmonton in a very, very difficult position, even though they're not mathematically eliminated. And honestly, if you're Winnipeg, the idea of crossing over into the East is not a terrible look. Like, it's one of those things where I don't know if I'd say I'd prefer it, because it's kind of hard to say what I would prefer. But I think at the end of the day, the Bombers need to be able to get it done, regardless of whatever division they play out of. So final score 25-20, Elks win. The Bombers, for the end of there is a very confusing end to this season. There's a lot going on, and there's a lot of changes that will be made. Tomorrow, Ottawa and Montreal play. That's a nothing game. I think, like, the only thing that this could maybe change is potentially Montreal. Montreal could make some progress on Hamilton and maybe take that East final from Hamilton, because Hamilton lost earlier today, 37-20. Next week we play Saskatchewan. And so If you're the Bombers, you're hoping to get the W there. But even if you don't, again, well, it's funny. I say you're hoping to get the W because in general, you're always hoping for that. But BC beating Edmonton, I think, is more important. Um, BC getting a win against Edmonton next week is more important to Winnipeg than Winnipeg's game against Saskatchewan. Because of the fact that if you're the Bombers, you don't hate the idea of being that crossover team. So it is what it is. I want to know what you guys thought of this game in the comment section down below. I was not pleased with it. I thought it was very sloppy at times. But at the end of the day, the number one goal, because obviously one of the biggest goals is to win, but the number one thing you absolutely could not let up is losing the game by over 13 points and giving the tiebreaker to the Edmonton Elks. That was something that was a non-negotiable. You can't do that. They didn't do that, so I can live with this game. Especially since I think Edmonton has been playing very good football as of recent. So, want to know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Check out Canadian Football Central as we do full league-wide coverage on there. Me and my co-host Rick from Hamilton, and we'll be sure to be doing our review of this week as well as our preview of the next week of football. So, make sure you guys check that out. Peace, love, and positivity, all you wonderful people at home. We'll see you guys next time.
Can they take the lead on this drive?